When an avoidant partner begins to fall for someone, one of the most telling signs isn't found in grand romantic gestures or dramatic confessions. It's far more subtle, yet incredibly powerful. They start to prioritize your presence over their own deeply guarded independence. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, personal space and emotional distance are survival tools. They've learned to depend on themselves, to feel safest when they are self-contained and self-reliant. Love, to them, often feels risky, even threatening. But when they begin to fall, that inner wiring starts to shift. You'll notice they begin to reach out more often, perhaps initiating plans or checking in on you. They may start aligning their schedule with yours, carving out windows of time that used to be sacred for solitude, now filled with shared moments. At first it might be small things. They stay a little longer after dinner, they text you when something reminds them of you, or they start including you in their daily life without needing special occasion. These seemingly simple behaviors are actually monumental shifts. It means you're no longer an obligation or a potential threat to their autonomy. Instead, you've become a source of comfort, stability, and even joy. In Tony Robbins' philosophy, where energy flows, attention goes, and when an avoidance energy starts flowing toward you naturally, that is no accident. It's evidence of internal transformation. They're choosing connection over isolation. Their nervous system, once wired to pull away, is starting to rewire in your presence. It may still be hesitant, imperfect, or inconsistent at times, but the fact they're making space for you in their life, emotionally and logistically, speaks volumes. This shift isn't about control or obligation. It's about willingness. It's about choice. And when an avoidant starts to choose you repeatedly, it's not just love, it's growth. Avoidant individuals often carry a deep fear of vulnerability. They've learned, usually through early emotional experiences, that revealing too much can lead to pain, rejection, or loss of control. So they build emotional walls, wear masks of detachment, and avoid intimate conversations that might expose their inner world. But when they begin to fall in love, something unexpected happens. Those walls start to crack, even if just slightly. You might hear them casually mention a difficult memory from their past or quietly admit they were scared about something. It may not sound like much on the surface, but for an avoidant, these admissions are monumental. Vulnerability doesn't come naturally. It feels unsafe. So, when they begin to trust you enough to share even fragments of their truth, it's a signal that you've become emotionally significant. They may not open up in the way you're used to. There won't always be deep heart-to-hearts or long emotional monologues. Instead, they'll test the waters. They'll reveal a little, then retreat, then reveal again. This back and forth is not a lack of interest. It's a dance of trust. They're learning slowly that you won't judge them, abandon them, or use their truth against them. Over time, those moments of sharing become more frequent, and the content becomes more personal. You'll start to see the emotions beneath their calm exterior, the worry behind their silence, the care in their small actions, the love in their quiet efforts. As Tony Robbins often teaches, love is built on emotional safety, and safety is built on trust. When an avoidant starts letting you see their doubts, fears, or insecurities, they're doing the bravest thing they know how to do, letting themselves be seen. It may be subtle, it may be unpolished, but it's real, and it's the beginning of genuine emotional intimacy. Conflict is often where avoidant individuals feel the most overwhelmed and exposed. When disagreements arise, their default response is typically to retreat, emotionally shut down, walk away, or become cold and distant. This isn't because they don't care. It's because conflict feels like a threat to their sense of emotional control and safety. They're wired to protect themselves by withdrawing, believing that distance is the best defense. But when an avoidant partner starts to fall for someone, this pattern begins to change in subtle, meaningful ways. Instead of leaving the room during an argument or disappearing for days, they begin to stay. They may still struggle with expressing their feelings clearly, but their presence becomes the message. They're saying, "This is hard for me, but I want to work through it with you." That alone is a major act of emotional courage. You may notice they take a breath before responding instead of walking away. They may ask to revisit the conversation later, once they've had time to process, not to avoid it, but to approach it more calmly. These small steps signal a shift in their internal wiring. Where they once feared confrontation as a potential loss of connection or control, now they're willing to risk discomfort in order to preserve the relationship. It's a clear sign that their emotional investment in you is growing. Tony Robbins teaches that relationships thrive not in the absence of conflict, but in the presence of mutual commitment to growth. When avoidants start showing up during emotional tension, they're demonstrating that you matter more than their fear. They are choosing connection over self-protection. It may not always be smooth or articulate, but the effort to stay, listen, and even admit fault is their way of saying, "You're worth the risk." In their world, that kind of vulnerability in conflict is not just love, it's transformation. Physical intimacy for avoidant individuals often starts as something surface level, controlled, and emotionally detached. They may engage in it because it's expected or because it feels safe to express connection physically rather than verbally or emotionally. But when they begin to truly fall in love, the meaning behind those physical moments begins to change, sometimes slowly, but undeniably. What was once casual now carries intention. Touch becomes more than just a gesture. It becomes a form of silent communication. You'll notice the way they hold your hand a little longer, the way they lean into you during quiet moments, the way they initiate closeness not just out of habit, but out of genuine desire to connect. They may not always be able to say what they feel in words, but their body starts to express it in subtler, softer ways. A lingering kiss, a gentle touch to your back when you're not feeling your best, a look that says more than a sentence could. For someone who has kept intimacy at arm's length, these behaviors are monumental. They represent a shift from control to surrender, from protection to openness. They begin to allow physical closeness to carry emotional weight, and even though it might still be hard for them to articulate their feelings, their actions speak with clarity. According to Tony Robbins, emotion lives in the body, and for an avoidant, falling in love means their body starts responding differently. They soften. They stop guarding themselves so fiercely. They begin to trust the closeness rather than brace against it. You become not just a physical partner, but a safe space where they can experience both desire and emotional connection. This transition isn't always obvious at first. It may look like more consistent cuddling, longer embraces, or an unexpected forehead kiss. But underneath those gestures is something much deeper, an acknowledgement that love is no longer something to fear. It's something they're beginning to embrace with you. Avoidant individuals often struggle with verbal expressions of love. Saying "I love you," discussing future plans, or openly expressing emotional need can feel overwhelming or even unsafe. But when they begin to fall for someone, they express their feelings in a different language, the language of action. Instead of words, they show up. They remember the small things that matter to you. They fix that broken cabinet you mentioned once in passing. They bring you your favorite snack after a long day. They make sure you're safe, cared for, and comfortable, often without ever announcing their intentions. These acts are not random. They are carefully chosen expressions of love and loyalty. For an avoidant, doing something helpful or thoughtful allows them to feel connected without having to navigate the emotional exposure that words often bring. These are their "I love yous" are quiet, consistent, and deeply sincere. You might start to notice how they're the one making sure your car has gas before a long trip, or they research something you were struggling with just to make your life a little easier. They might not say much when you're upset, but they'll sit nearby, ready to help in any way they can. This behavior reflects a powerful emotional shift. According to Tony Robbins, real love is not about saying the right thing. It's about doing the right thing even when it's hard. When an avoidant starts to act in ways that show care, protection, and reliability, they're communicating in the only way they know how, through service. These actions are not performative. They come from a genuine desire to support and connect. In their world, trust and love are built through consistency and presence. They may never flood you with emotional confessions, but their daily efforts, the ones they choose to make again and again, show that they're thinking about you, investing in you, and growing in love with you. Every act, no matter how small, is proof that you matter to them. For an avoidant individual, their inner world is often a heavily guarded space, shaped by years of emotional self-protection. They don't let people in easily, not into their thoughts, not into their past, and certainly not into the parts of themselves they consider vulnerable or unlovable. But when they begin to fall in love, that fortress begins to open, slowly and cautiously. At first, it might come in the form of stories from their childhood, things they've never shared with anyone before. You might start hearing about their fears, their dreams, or the reasons behind some of their habits. It won't come all at once, and it won't be wrapped in emotional fanfare, but it will be real. These are not just anecdotes, they are acts of deep trust. By revealing parts of their history or inner world, they're saying, "I trust you to see me, the real me, and still stay." That level of emotional exposure is terrifying for someone who's spent their life avoiding it, which is why it's such a profound sign of love. You might notice they begin to introduce you to people who matter to them, a sibling, a close friend, maybe even their parents. These introductions are symbolic, showing that you're no longer someone on the outside looking in. You've been invited into the most personal layers of their life. As Tony Robbins emphasizes, transformation begins when we lean into discomfort with courage. For an avoidant, letting you into their private world is the ultimate act of courage. They are no longer just managing a relationship. They are merging lives, slowly allowing themselves to be known. Their walls, once built to protect them, begin to lower, not because it's easy, but because they've decided you're worth the risk. They may still pull back at times, and they may still struggle with complete openness, but the direction is clear. They're moving toward connection, not away from it. Their willingness to share who they really are is not just a sign of affection. It's a declaration that you've become a safe space in a world that once felt unsafe.